Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Titan Business Builders podcast. And today we have an exciting guest. We have as our guest today Jens Schadendorf from Germany. Hey, Jens, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Stefan. Thanks for having me. Hi from
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
right from Munich in Bavaria. So,
Yeah. We're not that far away, actually. I'm from Ghent in Belgium. So that's like, say, maybe 4 hours drive, maybe more,
no, it's
but
more.
not that
Definitely,
far.
that's more. That's more. That's
Okay.
8 hours. That's 8 hours. You have never been. You have never driven to to
No,
to Munich, so it's 8 hours.
Okay. It's more than I thought. Like I've driven once or twice with the car to Frankfurt. That was about 3 hours, but okay, it's a little bit further.
Yeah,
Anyway,
but from Frankfurt to Munich, it's another 4 hours. So,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Anyway, we're not here to talk about geography. We're here to talk about you, Jens. And I'll just do a quick introduction for our audience. Who is Jens? And I'm reading here. Jens Schadendorf is an economist, an author, and keynote speaker on topics related to diversity and inclusion, primarily LGBTQ plus DNI, co- corporate social responsibility, and leadership. But most of all, you've also written a book which is called or entitled GaYme Changer with a GAY as spelling, like gay me game changer. It's a bit weird to explain it like that, but it's important because it's a wordplay and I love the wordplay. And yeah, that's what we're going to talk about, how you came up with the book, but also about your business, of course, because this is all about how LGBTQ plus business people create their own business.
yeah.
Jens, is that everything that I just said? Is that okay? Is that right? Am I right? Do I leave something out or not?
Well, of course, there's a lot you can mention,
Yeah,
but just I think perhaps we can filter this in our conversation, and
yeah.
those people who are more interested, they can Google me. But perhaps what you have missed out, I would say, is that before I set up on my own business, I was in the book publishing industry myself. Started as an editor, then editorial director, publishing director. So I've published, for instance, major authors like Bill Clinton,
Oh,
so Jack Welch, Hillary Clinton,
wow.
Peter Drucker, so the guru of leadership, for instance, and
Yeah.
Tom Peters, and all these big Dan Tapscott, who's one of the leading guys in digital business. So, but this was before I set up my own business. But of course, that's my
Yeah.
background. So in a way, I'm a book change maker. Uh,
Yeah.
and in the past, in large global corporates, at Springer, for instance, many of the audiences will certainly know Springer, and but also then since I've set up my own business, yeah.
So would you say that with your previous experience through publishing books for these great names, it was your biggest inspiration to start writing your own books? Or was it
Well,
always the
well,
goal?
Well, how, why are you doing what you are doing? So, I mean, we should perhaps not deep dive
Yeah.
too much into philosophical questions, but I think it belongs to honesty as well, to not, post rationalize what you have done. So, I remember when I was a child that I was always, perhaps not a child, but person was getting older, sometimes in the teenage age, so that I was kind of attracted to books and as well to physical, so the physical
Mm.
flavor of books. I remember when I was, I think, 13 or 14 or something, I was getting into one of the cupboards of my grandma, and I found books of my grandfather. He has died at that time already, and I was just, I liked this flavor. There was a book about Napoleon, and interestingly also about a piece of Magnus Hirschfeld. So one of the founding fathers of modern sexuology. And my grandmother, she's a born Hirschfeld, so there is a sort of connection. But of course, at that time, I didn't really connect to this. But what I wanted to say is that for some reason, I felt drawn to the physical. I like to have books in my hand. And also I was, I think, in the age of very young when I also wrote my first own book, which was only one copy. I just took some pages and glued this together, and I sort of used the name of the streets where my parents and my older brother and I were living as creating a publishing name. So, and it's interesting because I never in my family, there was no journalist, there was no book author. There were scientists, yes, but there's not book authors, and there was no publishing background or something. So what I wanted to say is, for whatever reason, I felt drawn to writing and publishing and so forth. And I was about 20 or so. I was very much into sports, so very competitive. And also, I was then writing in Hamburg. So actually, I'm living in Munich since many years, but I'm originally from Hamburg, in another part of Germany. And I was as well going to some football matches and was writing then when I was still at school, going with my Volkswagen Beetle and writing some stuff. And I still have the things which document what I've got for them for 20 Deutschmarks or 15 Deutschmarks or so.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I felt drawn to this world, and I don't know why. And luckily, I'm still in this world.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny that you say this story and a little bit about your background. Like this is how many entrepreneurs also first started out with discovering their passion, right? They had something in their childhood that really was drawn to them, and you can see that later on in their careers, professionally or through their business, they're almost drawn again to the same thing. So I guess it relates a lot to your story and how you build out your career, and also how you then evolved into building your own business, because
Yeah.
your own business is also about books, right?
Yeah. And if you look at the background here, I mean, it's just, this is not fake. This is real. And it's just part of the reality. So there is more. Of course, there is. I'm as I was saying, one thing is the content, but also, if I may, so this is my own book. So you change, you move it, you see the holographic effect, and you then use your fingers and go across. It's a sensible experience as well. So I not only like good books in the sense of content, but also like the smell. I like to touch it. I don't want to idealize it, because there are also bad books, and that's books. But in fact, I, as you were saying, I'm actually in the book business, and I'm very grateful for this. So one thing I'm doing is so when I left one of the large global corporates dealing with books, so Axel Springer and Bonnier, and before I worked with Bertelsmann, so Springer, Bertelsmann, so those who are in the media world, they know these large groups. I set up my own business, and I was then tempted to as well to advise authors, but also I'm sometimes consulting publishing companies. So it's and since I have this background of being an editor, publishing director, editorial director, being an author myself, as you were saying, I have a bit everything. And of course, this is I even was approached via LinkedIn for advice for certain research topics, because I'm considered as the book expert who is considered to be impartial. So yeah, and I'm in my book, my core business, I'm advising global corporates like Accenture, EY, and others in book which are written in German or in English. And some of these books are also published, for instance, in French or in China, in Chinese or in Japanese or in Brazilian, so Brazilian Portuguese, or one was even published in Russia. Okay, that's not possible anymore, but the past has happened. Korean. So I'm helping this, guiding this journal. And the other side is that I'm writing my own books. So as you're pointing to in these books, most of the books are related to LGBT topics, but this is not the only issue. For instance, I've written also a book which was published in German only. So GaYme Changer was primarily published in English, but then also went to Germany, and then very soon will be published in Portuguese and in Slovak. So unfortunate, but the interesting thing is that I'm advising these companies. I'm advising also scientists. So, for instance, professors for instance, but primarily the economic side, but also from medical science, because I think that's the reason is why I'm some medical doctors in my family, so I can connect to this. Yeah. So that I'm helping them sometimes to conceptualize books. Also to write these books. Sometimes I'm managing teams where you have a research department in a large company developing this country for a cover author. I'm not writing these books myself, so I'm just helping developing these books. I'm also helping them marketing these books, because of course marketing books is a special thing, and as well writing things that help them to market these books. Because for them, especially for companies, writing books is something which helps them as well to sort of gather the information they're having, and also they're using this as a marketing tool to present themselves, because a book, of course, is still at that level seen as a tool to show competency and professionalism.
Absolutely.
And since my background is high level, so I've been studying in Switzerland, I've been as well living for a year in Southeast Asia, and so that's if they want my help, they want to have some high quality help, and that's what I'm providing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely true that writing your own book, if you're a corporate or even if you're a solopreneur, is an excellent marketing asset, right, to showcase indeed your expertise. Now, Jens, the book GaYme Changer is a bit of a different book, right?
Yes.
It is to showcase also how, and I'm reading here the subtitle as well, like how the LGBT community and their allies are changing the global economy. Now, is that coming from your years of experience in all these different countries where you have seen the change happening around the world? Or where does it really stem from?
Well, so first of all, this is not my first book on that topic. So I've written a book, let's say from started researching a book for the first time some 10 years ago. So when I think you may imagine we were in a different situation in terms of LGBT equality in the corporate world or in business or overall, I would say. So I was writing this book, was researching this book only in Germany, but of course I was as well researching this as well in other countries. But the focus was primarily in Germany, what Germany could learn, so German workplaces could learn from other countries, but also what is happening in Germany. And this was not just about business. It was also, for instance, there was a chapter on the Roman Catholic and the Protestant Church. There was also a chapter on, let's say, the German army. Since I've been as well serving in the German army in very young age. At that time, it was the system in Germany that you had to serve, or you could then serve in a social. But I've chosen to go to the German army. And this was, I think, it was important for me as well because when you're doing research on your own, of course you show an interest and you have an affinity, but on the other hand, it's hard work, but also you sort of build up a reputation for being an expert in that. So this book came out in 2014. It was called Der Regenbogenfaktor, the Rainbow Factor, which I still like. I was then invited, to my own surprise, to several events in German, readings and presentations, and 3 years after this, so it was 2017, I realized something has changed. And I mean, I think we experience this now, that sometimes you see that's a kind of a significant change of level, and we see this now with the pandemic and the war, and you see everything has changed. And I sensed, with respect to the LGBT equality discussion globally and the corporate world, there was a major change. And I was invited to the Allianz Global Investors. Allianz is a global insurance player. There was a unit which is doing their investment business with Allianz Global Investors. They have a headquarter in Frankfurt. I was invited there and I had a discussion, and the CEO was there as well. And I said, something has changed here. And then I said, I have to understand what is going on here. I think that's is definitely a strength I'm having. I have a sense for topics which are on the rise. I had this already when I was a publisher myself. So I wrote a concept paper. I submitted to the publisher, and they accepted it immediately. So it was a very, very fast thing. And then when I then started my research, which was started in Rome, interestingly, I was invited by BNP Paribas, so one of the major French banks or global banks, but headquartered in Paris. They invited me from a business conference where I was the only external. So they flew in. So it was about just LGBT inclusion in the workplace at BNP Paribas. And very close to the Vatican, interestingly, in Rome, which was so I went there, and I sort of got confirmed, because they flew in people from India, from Canada, from the US, from Brazil. And this is a hell of money they invested. And this, of course, completely different what I've experienced them 3 or 4 years ago. So so this went on. I was then going to Brussels, to the EU. I was going to Amsterdam, for instance. I went to Paris, to London. I was flying to New York, to Seattle, to the big Out and Equal conference, which is the most important, I think, most important LGBT workplace conference globally, with more than 5,000 people, with sponsors you can't count. So many sponsors. So and then, of course, in Germany, I was then flying to South Africa, to Hong Kong, and so it was quite an exciting journey. And I think I also was lucky, because in the beginning, when I started my research, because of my background, experience as a leading German publisher with all these authors I've just mentioned, so Bill Clinton and Jack Welch and now these other guys, and published many authors before as in renowned German publishing houses. They trusted me, and they opened me doors. So I got into contact to CEOs and other C-levels, but also to human rights actors, to the UN. And of course, this helped very much shaping me the book. And to my own surprise, when I was starting this journey, I found out this is the first book of its kind globally. There was not that book, such a book out globally. And so this helped me definitely. And also when then finally the pandemic came, and I also, it was, I mean, for many people, it was depressing, for myself as well. But on the other hand, it gave me as well some time as well to intensify my research via Zoom and Skype and Teams and all, as we know. So, but until I counted, I had more than 100 interviews globally, even to Japan and South Korea and Brazil, you know. And as you were saying or asking, how did this idea come about? I mean, I had this experience before. I had this reputation. So, for instance, people of Accenture or McKinsey or SAP, they all knew me before. So I didn't have to explain. And they knew as well the level, because I've been writing as well for Spiegel and for Zeit, and I had been reviewing books for Financial Times Germany. So, and you know, these companies usually, they look for quality, and because they are afraid of reputational risks and all this kind. And so this was very helpful, and of course very exciting. Even I stop here. So I even before the pandemic started, in I think it was in March 2020, I was even in Moscow. So of course this won't happen for the next 20 years.
Not anymore,
right? So yeah, so very exciting journey. As I was saying, yes, I'm an expert, a book expert. I know what things are going, but you also have to have luck, and I think I was lucky as well.
I mean, of course, you need to have luck, but the way that you approach it, and the fact that you reach out to a lot of people, if you have that network and you build it out, eventually people will start to know you, and that's when they come to you, right? So it is definitely a combination of networking and so on. Now, Jens, in the book itself, I mean, we sent you a questionnaire before the podcast. We always do that. And in one of your answers, you talk about the fact that fostering LGBTQ plus equality is good for business and the right thing to do. And that's also why we came up with the title here for the podcast. But if you're looking at this at a business perspective, from corporate or from just small businesses, doesn't really matter. And I think the question that I want to ask is like, is it easy to get through to the executives, to the business owners, to help them understand that LGBTQ plus equality is good for business, can increase revenue? Is that easy to do? Did you find it easy? Is there still a lot of work to do? What do you feel about that?
Well, this is a very complex question.
Yeah.
It is and it is not. So what I mean, so a yes and a no. So a yes, of course, if you are working or communicating with a company which has already an experience or a history of awareness for the value and the dividend of diversity and inclusion and fostering the experience of belonging and equality, of course, then you don't have to argue so much. Yeah. But of course, the majority, and one thing, the other thing is also it depends on the sort of the cultural space you're in. And I don't mean with cultural space the culture of a company. Of course, this plays a role as well. But definitely it's a lot easier to address these topics and look for support in your research and then to learn what they are doing, how they are doing, and working for more LGBT inclusion if you're in the Anglo-Saxon world or as well in the Dutch world. So, and I think definitely the Netherlands is a leading company in continental Europe, definitely, which I really appreciate. And I've some friends also in Amsterdam and other parts of the ones I really appreciate this sense of support, which it goes into the so is as well there in the Dutch government and the Dutch ministries and Dutch cities and so forth. This is quite a unique, and I think many European countries and companies located in Europe can learn from the Netherlands in many ways. So what I mean is, yeah, just to be clear, of course, it makes a difference if you're talking to if we are talking about a company which is based in New York or in Amsterdam, or if it's based in Slovakia or I don't know, in South Korea. So you can't generalize. I mean, my book is basically about the message that we have a global trend which describes the rise of LGBT plus equality in the workplace and markets. And I'm giving a lot of stories about individuals and companies and how they are doing this, and so personal stories, but also organizational stories, and also the sort of the networks which have formed and the people working together in umbrella organizations like the EGLCC or also many others. So I would say it really depends. That's of course not a satisfying answer, but I remember, for instance, when I started my research in France, and I speak French because I've been studying in bilingual university in Switzerland. So I did my master's in Fribourg, so it was a bilingual study in German and French. That although there was an early start in France, even back in the 90s, with an organization which was called L'Autre Cercle, it took, I mean, ages until then. Finally, let's say, even perhaps, let's say 2 years or 3 years ago, there was a kind of a rise to the next level. Until then, it was, compared to the speed which unfolded, for instance, in neighbor state Germany, or even in Italy, primarily in the northern part, it took time. So it was difficult in the beginning to even find people to speak with in companies. But then at a certain point, things were changing. And that's again what we have discussed before. Sometimes things there's a change, and some people don't realize. And at a certain point, all these elements are coming together, and they're moving up to the next level. And this is, I think, important when you look at different companies, but also at the countries they have their headquarters, because where they are located, they play a crucial. Although they are global players, it's important whether they have their headquarters in France or in Italy or in Spain or in Portugal, in Bratislava or in Moscow or in New York. This is important, and of course they promise today to be the same everywhere where you are. As if you're an employee or a manager, so they promise that you have same benefits and all this stuff. But of course, that's bullshit. I mean, in a way, it's important because it also puts pressure as well on the company to improve. But on the other hand, everybody is realistic enough to say if you are a Siemens employee and be sent to Saudi Arabia, it's not the same that compared to that being in water in Munich or at Siemens Healthineers in the US. It makes a difference. So I don't want to escape from your question, but I wanted to say it's important to differentiate where you are culturally, etc.
Absolutely. And I'm also thinking while you're explaining that is how corporate businesses also work around supplier diversity. And I want to get a little bit into that topic, especially from our side, meaning LGBTQ plus business owners. How important is it? Is your book, can you say that your book GaYme Changer is also helping us as LGBTQ plus business owners, our audience, to embrace our community and where we belong to, and to also show the world that we're building these businesses and that we can build really good businesses. So corporate world can also see like, okay, we should also take that into account as
Yeah.
supply diversity. Like for us as technology, it's really important that we want to really show the world and show everybody in our community and inspire them to build their own business, because we are doing things differently. We are more powerful than we think. And I'm just questioning, like, and I'm pretty sure that's something on your mind as well. Like, can the book also help us become more embracing of our identity and show the world that we are really good business owners?
Yes, of course. So of course, I mean, so my book is long, so there's a lot in it, and of course, I'm not naive. I know many people who have read the book from the first page to the last page. Also because it's nicely written and nicely done, but that's another thing. So of course I understand fully that people in these times don't have so much time, and I want to focus, and there are parts in my book where the questions you were asking are answered. So for instance, there's a section also on the business chambers, and so the issue of supply chain diversity and so forth. And this is, since I've written, and since the book and research and written the book, and since the book has been published, it has been even reinforced in my perception and in the global arena, but also in the European arena.
Yeah.
So yes, I would, but I would also add that, I mean, I self-identify as gay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm married. I'm a husband. I'm happy and so forth. But I think the danger, and this includes many dimensions of diversity, is that you are think yourself into a bubble, and experience yourself as to be a part of just a community. So of course, I'm part of the LGBT plus community. So I mean, the book is I think also a contribution to make the world a better place through the lens of LGBT plus equality and push this. But the warning, there's a warning sign, and the warning sign is, please be trapped. Don't be trapped in just to be circling in this bubble. Be open. I mean, that's the promise, and that what we as LGBT people demand from sort of the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So to be open, but just be open as well. So my business is not defined by the fact that I'm gay. Although I've been open for, let's say, more than 30 years, so even at university, and I've been as well made a tremendous career even reporting to the point and global corporates to the C-level. So it was never hidden, never. And it's not something I'm proud of. I just did this, and so now I wanted to sort of describe what's going on and to give something to the community, but not just to the community, as well to the world. And I think that's what I wanted to say here is, yes. So our community can find a lot in this book, because it gives an overview of everything what is happening around the globe. I mean, that's perhaps bravely said, but I would say so. That's true, with many different aspects. But it's not. But it's including sort of elements like the change from the shareholder society to the stakeholder society, the rise of corporate social responsibility, on those who are only focusing on I'm a gay or a lesbian or a non-binary or a queer entrepreneur or whatever, and then I'm looking at everything through this lens. I think this is, to me at least, not enough. be open as you demand others to be to the world, and then you are becoming successful, whatever you're doing. That's definitely something what I've learned over the years, and I'm still holding to this. Also, my friends, I mean, everybody, there's all generations, all genders, of course, I'm also the member of the Völklinger Kreis of the German Gay Association, but I'm also the member of the Rotary Club. So of course, everybody has his own business, and I don't say that everybody should do this. I mean, everybody has to find his or her own way. But I strongly think to really bring about change at a certain level, I would say, don't forget to be as open as your others want to be vis-a-vis yourself. And that's a good basis of our attitude, value basis to bring about change, economic change, social change, and change yourself as well. Because it's also about learning and getting to know yourself better and move on and progress, and not to be stuck in yourself.
Absolutely. And I love how you explain that. It's really good, really good. I think it's really good that our audience can hear this for sure. Now, Jens, own company for the next few months, and what's on the horizon? What are the goals? What holds the future for Jens?
That's a good question. I'm asking this myself every day. No, not every day. I'm exaggerating. So actually, just to talk about the next weeks and then the next months and the next years. So the next weeks are definitely centered around bringing my Slovak edition of GaYme Changer to the world, which is interesting. Also because the Slovak edition, because no Slovak publishing company wanted to, media house wanted to publish this book.
Oh.
Excuse me, but there was a fintech in Bratislava, which has an open gay CEO, and they have been investing and a lot of engagement, shown a lot of engagement for an LGBT equality. And Slovakia is about 5 million people. There's hate speech. There is, other, violence. That's not the Netherlands. That's not Belgium. That's not Germany. So that's very tough. And they decided to translate the book, and I've written a chapter about Slovakia and done research there. And there will be soon a launch of the book. There will be a special edition. So the company is called Vacuum Labs. So as I said, a fintech. And so they will sort of use this book and sort of send this to multipliers like politicians and the media and other companies, and to, choose this in a different way than you would usually expect that companies or other people would do this. So that's one thing. The other thing is there's an upcoming Portuguese edition of my book, which is of course a gift. So I got an offer by a Portuguese publisher in Lisbon, or Lisboa, as the Portuguese saying. I've done research for that. I'm actually writing a new chapter. So I've been written an additional chapter on Slovakia, but I'm now writing an additional chapter on Lisboa. And you may know that the Europe Pride 2025 will be taking place in Lisboa. So there is a lot of movement. Portugal is also a very conservative country. So I love Portugal. I love the people. So I'm very grateful for this offer to publish this there. So this is also for the next 2 or 3 weeks. I will have to work on that. So they did a lovely cover as well, completely different from the one of the English version. But local, affinities and so forth. So that's one thing. The other thing is I'm also having, of course, my usual book project. I'm working on a book project about the digital state, which I'm supporting with a professor in Basel, in Switzerland, and a colleague, a lawyer. That's just an example. I'm also, since last year, I've been invited by the former Prime Minister of Mongolia to Mongolia. I'm engaged in developing a book on Mongolia, in fact, with him as a co-author, I'm writing this book, and also with his daughter. He speaks German, so this one I will be writing in German. But the plan is to make a rollout into the world, so to bring the sort of the beauty and the culture of Mongolia to the world, but also address the economic, social, and ecological challenges of country to the world. And not many people know this, but Mongolia belongs to the 10 countries of the world which are belong to the richest countries of the world, so of gold and silver and copper and all this stuff. And they, just two neighbors, which is Russia and China. So which makes it complicated to boycott anything. So it was a fantastic journey I had last year, so guided by this former prime minister and his family, and I spoke to ministers, to members of the constitutional court, to professors. I was in archaeological sites. I was on the countryside and with religious, rituals. I was participating in all this stuff. So, so this will be quite different, of course. Minorities and underrepresented groups, and also gay people will play a role there, but that's not primarily the thing. It's something which is completely different what I've done. So with respect to my GaYme Changer book, but there's also, and this is perhaps the last thing I can say here, there are also thoughts that in fact, I'm already conceptualizing a new book on LGBT, which is about the future. So, the future of the LGBT equality movement, if I may say so. So, which sort of links the global trends we are facing, like AI, digitization, polarization, ESG. So the big trends, and I'm economist, so I'm thinking these big trends as well, and how these are linked to the discussion around inclusion and equality, and respect to, especially to the progress of LGBT equality. So I think that's a major thing, because I really think that we are at a time where everything is changing substantially. So in Germany, our chancellor said that, talking about the Zeitenwende, so the change of an era, kind of, and I think this is true. I mean, it's not necessary that he has said this. Everybody who has can look at the things that are happening actually, with the war, ecologically, socially, with the growing divide and so forth, and the growing nationalism and populism and so forth, that there is something changing. We are in a very, I would say, dangerous and challenging time, but also a time of with new things are emerging. I want to understand this, and also I want to contribute this with the lens of equality and LGBT equality.
Okay, that sounds really exciting, and that's going to be some work as well, I can imagine. Yeah, Jens, I want to thank you already for your time that you've taken out of your day today. If there's anybody now watching still and have some questions for Jens, please put them in comments. We will put them on screen for sure. Now, Jens, all of this, the GaYme Changer book and so on, where can they find this?
Well, if you go to my website, I think you have put it already on the screen. There is a yeah, exactly. So you can go to this website and
GaYmeChanger.com.
GaYmeChanger.com, GaYme. And there is, if you go to the website, there's also a button where you can say, find a bookshop next door, kind of. There are not all countries mentioned, but and I know that some people go go. Let me check. Where is it? You can as well as order, signed copy, and contact author. Of course, you can do this.
Good, yeah, you should.
You go up, all the endorsements, 30 endorsements, CEOs, and so forth. You all these, the journey of the book. Find bookstop next year. Next year, United States, United Kingdom, Italy, Japan, Poland. You know, you see, you can put. Or as I was saying, just write to me during the week. I get as well requests through LinkedIn, and see, we want to have a signed copy, and then I sign the copy, and they reimburse me the money, and then send these books out. So if they want to have a personalized copy, of course, I'm ready to do this and happy to do this.
Perfect. So everybody should go right here, GameChanger.com.
And by the way, I've been, didn't you mention it, but it's also on the website. So far, I think I've been invited to about 50, large companies like McKinsey and Accenture and SAP, BNP Paribas, Danfoss, Metro, even BlackRock invited me. So that's also, of course, an occasion to bring this book, the content and the message of the book to the world, and to invite me in to speak about the book and the topic of the book.
Good. Jens, thank you. One last question before I let you go. Jens, what does success mean to you?
Well, I would say that's it. I mean, I was not prepared for this question, but that's good because I like these surprising questions. I would say that what success has meant to me, let's say 20 years ago, has changed. I think success is also related to the phase you're in your professional and personal life. So I would say I only can answer this of today's perspective. I think today it means to me to have an impact, which means, and this impact means, to me, I want to help on two sides. With is the economic side, but also with the sort of ethical and moral side. So in a way, I want to make the world a better place, to the extent that I and this is not only focused on the moral side. I think the economic side and the economic social side, together with the moral side, which is primarily individual side, human rights side or so. So I want to think these two things together, and to the extent that I'm successful in that, I consider myself successful in my professional life. In my personal life, and I think that's also important to address, so I think I am successful because I have a man and husband whom I love and who loves me. And I have a privilege because I have good friends around the globe. Of course, some are closer, some are less close. And since I'm a loyal person, I'm caring and so forth. And I think to me, success in that particular sense, not just in the professional sense, but also in the private sense, has a lot to do with being interested and engaged and taking care of somebody. So I feel fulfilled, if you want, not just if I have a professional success, but if I also have this richness of personal encounters and relationships I was just describing. So for instance, I have friends whom I know, let's say 30 years from my school time. And so for instance, when I was marrying my Danish husband, so which we did in Hamburg, there were people coming from across the world. And also, so a week ago, so I had I had a birthday, and then people would then reach out to me, but also do the same, but not just because of the birthday. It's something, perhaps you know this, when you're calling a friend, which perhaps you haven't speak to a year ago or 6 months ago or 3 months ago, and I've been living in several places of the world, in Frankfurt, and in Switzerland, and Singapore, and Thailand, and in Berlin, and Hamburg. So many places. Of course, the quality of the relationships you are having, of course, depends on the investments you're doing. Sometimes in the early stage, but not necessarily. And to me, I think it was really realizing when I was recently having a conversation with my best friend from Hamburg. We know each other about 30 years or so, and it's like you have been talking to her, for me, as it was yesterday. But we talked, the last time we talked, that, let's say, 6 months ago or so. But the proximity had to do as well with our history, but also with the engagement, the emotional engagement, the pure interest you're showing. And yeah, so it's success. It's not just something I define as professional. It's for me not just a professional dimension. It's also a very private and personal dimension, which I think especially in these turbulent times, and these sort of challenging times of the pandemic, and now with the war and these bad news, and so we should not forget.
That's beautifully put, and perfect timing is because this stream is, and the quality of the network is giving out a little bit. So let's end here. Thank you very much again, Jens, for your time, for your value, for your wisdom, for your great words. And yeah, we'll catch up soon again. Thank you everybody for watching, for listening, and we'll see each other very soon again with another episode. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Stefan. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, bye.